Hello. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Sree's Sunday New York Times Read Along. My name is Neil Parekh. I'll be the guest host today. We're focusing on a special section in today's paper, Trump's War on Immigration. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and our Digimentors website. Please like, comment, share, retweet, do all the things you do so that people will find today's show. Want to particularly thank everyone watching on replay. We know that you're most likely going to see the opening of the show. It takes a few minutes for people to come on, and our apologies for folks who are just joining the live show, just a few minutes behind schedule, but we will have a really, really good show today. Want to make sure that everyone watching knows that we have two special features. The first is this special report, Trump's War on Immigration. The first year in the president's quest turned towns and cities into battlegrounds. You can download the PDF from our website. You can go to tinyurl.com/war on immigration to get the PDF. We're going to have a discussion on civil rights and Trump's comments in particular in a recent New York Times interview. As an excerpt, President Trump's comments were a blunt distillation of his administration's racial politics, which rest on the belief that white people have become the real victims of discrimination in America. We have a gift link on our website. Go to tinyurl.com, War on Civil Rights. Thank you again for joining us. We're looking forward to a great show. We have a couple of people we want to say hi to who are joining. Paula Kiger is watching from Tallahassee, Florida. Paula, thank you so much for watching. Also in Florida is my mom, Sudha Parekh, watching from Tampa. Thank you, Mom. Always good to have you on the show. Oh, wait, I forgot to. Hi, Mom! It's my weekly hi, Mom. For folks who are regular viewers, we can have a little fun on the show too, right? Especially when there's a lot of serious business at hand. Jonathan Borstein is watching from the East Village where it's wet and cold. Yes, Jonathan, here in DC, we were expecting anywhere from a coating to an inch to 1 to 3 inches, maybe throughout the day. Looks like we haven't gotten anything yet, and I don't know that we will, frankly. Ken Fisher says, good morning from an Arctic, Iowa. I take it that means it's cold. Ken, give us a weather report. How cold is it? We would like to know. We will empathize with you. Pradnya Haldapur, who lives relatively close to me in Silver Spring, Maryland, it says, good morning, friends, here in Silver Spring, where ICE is hanging out in front of schools trying to catch parents as they drop off their kids. We will get into all of that, but Pradnya, I didn't realize that ICE was in Silver Spring. If you are in a city where ICE is actively engaging in these kinds of activities, let us know in the comments. Doug Levy is watching from the San Francisco Bay Area. Thank you, Doug. Always great to have you on the show. I want to make sure that we give a shout out to our sponsors, Muck and Graphic History Company. Thank you so much for your support. Let's take Doug's comment off. Thank you so much for your support of the show. We really appreciate it. We also want to mention that the show is produced by Digimentors, the consulting firm that Sree started several years ago with his very good friend Andrew Lee. I am proud to be a vice president of events and communications for Digimentors. This is one of the projects that we do, one of our weekly show, of course. And we always want to make sure that if you do need any help with digital marketing, events and digital programs, strategic communications, reach out. We'd be happy to work with you. For folks just joining, I will be guest hosting today. And I will say that I wasn't sure that we would do a show this weekend. Martin Luther King weekend, it's a holiday for some, it's a day on for others. And in the past, we've made it a point to have special guests who can speak to, civil rights and related issues. Uh, I was kind of on the fence. I wasn't sure if I would do the show, but Wayne Camadoy, art director for the New York Times, sent me this special section, this war on immigration, earlier in the week, and said, this is going to be in Sunday's paper. If you do a show, great. If you don't, feel free to share with your audience. And once I saw that, I knew that we have to have a conversation about it, and we wanted to put some focus on it. So again, if you're just joining us, you can get the PDF from our website. Go to tinyurl.com/war on immigration, and then scroll down to where you can find the PDF. We will be covering that special section. There are other articles in the paper as well. The other big news from yesterday is that President Trump is imposing tariffs on our European allies unless they let him take Greenland, which is just bonkers. I couldn't believe it when I read the news. Those tariffs are at 10%. I think they start February 1st. They'll go up to 25% in June if a deal isn't done by then. It just is beyond me how this is happening. But we will take a look at all of the news and all of the sections, and we'll work through all of it. Our friend Tim Fielder is watching on YouTube. Tim, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Tim is the illustrator with the Graphic History Company, and we'll be sharing some special features that they have prepared a little later in the program. Ken came back with his weather report, 7 degrees in Iowa with a 20 mile per hour wind. I'm going to ask you for one more piece of data. Ken, what's the wind chill with that? That's going to put it in the negative numbers for sure. I'm guessing -10. We have Mary C. Curtis watching as well. And her roll call column this week was on just this topic about Trump and civil rights. And in fact, Mary, we have that roll call column ready to share with folks right on screen, and we will certainly share the link with folks. This is Mary C. Curtis's column, Why the Aggrieved Need a Scapegoat and an Excuse, Anything But the Truth. So we will be digging into that a little bit later. Thank you again for sharing that, Mary. John Lee says there's a gentle dusting of snow on the Upper West Side. So we have a little precipitation up north. And we have Golden Hour book. Not sure. Oh, wait, it looks like it. Of course, Golden Hour. That is Doug Levy watching on YouTube. And I'm glad you had the profile pic to match. No topic is more important today than protecting our nation from this madness. I could not agree with you more. Naomi, sickening, cruel, racist America with the KKK in the middle of it. Absolutely. Pragya Haldapur, glad you decided to do the show. Not only is this a critical topic, but honestly, I needed this safe space for rational community right now. Pragya, I'm so glad that you said that, and thank you for that affirmation. I will do my best to be rational. I'll be honest with you, in thinking about the show, I didn't prepare a monologue at all, but in just thinking about these topics and thinking about what we'll be contending with, I was anything but rational. I'm thinking to myself, it's been a year since Trump was inaugurated. Yes, on last year on Martin Luther King Day, and I don't know if we can have rational responses to this anymore. I really don't know. I don't know what we can do. Doug Levy says it's essential that more people talk about what's happening in Minneapolis and elsewhere. We are watching an assault against Americans, and the Greenland nonsense jeopardizes our safety too. Absolutely. Diane says, good morning from Norwalk, Connecticut. Ken Fisher confirms it's -8 for the wind chill. It's also a snow day in Rhode Island, according to Naomi. Thankfully, we have rational, critical thinking political leaders. Uh, eh, maybe not. We all have a mad king, is what Ken says. Sujana says, hi, everyone. Nice to have community. It is. Sujana, it really is an important community. And that's one of the reasons that we rebooted the show in November. This is something that we've built a community over time. For folks who may be watching for the first time, the New York Times Read Along has been going for 10 years. Sree is the host, and he was the one that originated the show. I started working with him about 8.5 years ago. But we have really developed a strong community of people regulars who watch the show. And it really does mean a lot that folks join. My mom is weighing in. Trump's plan is ridiculous. He wants to buy Greenland or attack and take the country by hook or crook. Now he's talking about tariffs. Greenland, the people of Greenland are saying, go away, Yankees. They absolutely are. Deborah Kerr is signing in a little bit late. Hello from Fort Lauderdale. We are watching an uncomfortable reality show. That is definitely one way to put it. And Parbod Kumar Sharma says, good morning and Happy New Year to all your viewers from Chappaqua. And Naomi hits it partially on the head. All are distractions from the obvious Jeffrey Epstein ties. I would like to think that some of it is just intentional distraction, maybe the timing, most certainly. But I think that a lot of the, particularly on immigration and civil rights, I think it's more than that. I think it is intentional. The cruelty is the point. And if it distracts people from Epstein, even better. But I think that this is, directly what Trump and Stephen Miller and others want to do. And, for all the talk of Trump maybe extending to a third term, I don't know that J.D. Vance is going to be any better. So this is, Democrats don't get things organized. It's going to be very scary over the next several years. Naomi, of course, is referring to the Rhode Island political leaders. Deborah Burnick says, happy Sunday to you all from D.C. And Wayne Camadoy checks in, and I mentioned him earlier in the show. Thank you for having the show. Outstanding year-long photo project from photographer Ted Heisler and photo editor Eve Edelheit. The digital article received a lot of engagement in the reader comments. Todd is currently on the ground in Minneapolis. If you joined us late, Wayne is referring to the special section on immigration, Trump's war on immigration. The first year in the president's quest turned towns and cities into battlegrounds. Thank you, Wayne, for sending us the PDF and allowing us to put it on our website. Folks can get it from tinyurl.com, tinyurl.com/war-on-immigration, so you can get the PDF. So let's go ahead and dig into some of the paper and the news and get this conversation going. We will certainly we'll switch back and forth between the paper and online, but I do want to get to the actual paper, the print edition, so that we can look at the special section and more. And while I'm getting ready to do that, I want to ask you about your thoughts about the war on immigration, because it really is a war. This is something that has been going on for a year since Trump took office, and it's we've had the war on crime, the war on drugs, but this, I think, is different. And I will actually start not with the print edition, but actually with the online edition, because this is the reality of news, that sometimes the website will have even more timely information than the print, of course. So let me just bring that up for you real quick, and then we'll go to the paper. On the front page of the paper, you have how many people, refresh this so you get the full. How many people has the Trump administration deported so far, which is an important story. And then DHS's role questioned as immigration officers flood U.S. cities. These are the numbers. Over the past year, the Trump administration has deported about 230,000 people who were arrested inside the country, and another 270,000 at the border. Times analysis of federal data shows. That is just incredible. And at the same time, the number of people trying to cross the border, the southwest border in particular, has fallen significantly. This is more data in terms of deported by ICE, other deportations, etc. Why is immigration enforcement receiving so much attention right now? These are all really important data points to consider. Let's make sure that we're getting that, on screen. We'll go back to the top. How many people has Trump deported so far? 230,000 people inside the country, 270,000 people at the border. The other thing that's important to note, and this Stephen Miller is the architect of this, is that they're deporting people so quickly that they don't have a place to hold them. They're arresting people quicker than they can deport them, and that's leading to the detention centers that we're seeing. Okay, with that as the backdrop, we will go to the newspaper, and in addition to the conversation on immigration, we will also be talking about the war on civil rights. You can find the gift link there on tinyurl.com, War on Civil Rights. tinyurl.com, War on Civil Rights. So go ahead and get that gift link, get the PDF to the special report, and we will have that discussion. We will take a look at the great work that was done over the last year, the photo essay that we're talking about. So let's just make sure the camera is good. All right. And we will get started. There we go. Okay. All set. Of course, I am producing the show alone, so it's sometimes we have a couple of glitches like that, but we're still going well. All right, so here is the newspaper. The Trump's war on immigration, year one, 2 photos above the fold, and we have the leads, how activists in Iran combat web blackout, sneaking in thousands of Starlink terminals, and Trump to impose new tariff rates over Greenland. I mentioned that at the top of the show. Another Minnesota story, 2 stark views about a victim, a rural-urban divide reflected at a bar. Below the fold on the bottom right, an oddly formal catchphrase spells out a need, obedience. And this is the phrase, "Thank you for your attention to this matter," how Donald Trump closes his calls to action. Reality check on weight loss drugs. You may need one forever. Once they stop, many users regain pounds. The reefers on the bottom, new era on the battlefield. This is about Russians and whether comparatively inexpensive drones have made their military's long-standing approach to war obsolete. People lose their lives in reference to Gaza and Doctors Without Borders. Tenants forced to bundle up in New York because of the heat. Some sports stories, predictions of a deluge in terms of the next storm to hit New York. Some Sunday Styles articles, and then Arts and Leisure. Jodie Foster, fluently. This is an article about a private life. About Jodie Foster takes on the first solo lead role in which she speaks French, and that article was written by a former guest on the show, Elaine Ciolino, who is based in Paris. So that is that'll be worth noting. That's the front page. Here's the Trump's war on immigration, this special section, and I'm going to show you just what it looks like. We will take a closer look, but I love the fact that the cover, this is obviously hard to do single-handed, but the cover is a very nice full photo that spreads across the front and the back. But it certainly works as a cover page if you're only looking at the regular size vertical shot for the paper full page. We will take a close look at that a little bit later. Sunday Opinion, portrait of Trump to start off with, and at the bottom, where is Trump taking us? He requires a presidential category all his own, and that's by Ross Doubt That, which is interesting. The cost to America is already too much to measure. That's another article, and we will look at what's inside. Hopefully, we'll get a chance. Arts and Leisure, more in the oboe just yet, is the cover story as it makes the notoriously tricky instruments. A New York workshop revives a revered brand. Now, I want to take a moment because inside Arts and Leisure is an article written by one of my favorite New York Times authors and a former guest on the show, Sarah Barr. I'll pull up a little bit to show the full view, but we have this partnership that she has with Vidya Nagarajan. They've done several pieces where she goes and reports a story and Vidya does the artwork. And you can see here, this is about the midnight screening of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I'll be curious to see if anyone is a Rocky Horror Picture Show fan out there. Let me know in the comments, and we'll make sure. I did not look at this online, but I'm sure that it'd be worth sharing if you are. So let me know if you're a fan. Let's go to Sunday Business. Is this billionaire a financial genius or a fraudster? That's about Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor's big bet on Bitcoin. We have Sunday Styles, and that cover story is in Rome. He's Maestro. Abel Ferrara, a Bronx-born indie filmmaker, plays a gangster in Marty Supreme and tells the story of his wild career in a recently released memoir. Book review, more MAGA stuff. Red Letters, Furious Minds by Laura Field traces the ascendancy of hard-right thinkers whose contempt for liberal democracy is shaping American politics. More news from MAGA, and this was online, I think, at least 10 days ago, if not more. Inside Marjorie Taylor Greene's break with Trump. I was just so naive. This was a huge story online. Marjorie Taylor Greene had been a 100% Trump acolyte, and then she started criticizing him. And then out of nowhere, she announced she was going to resign, which was very surprising. She had resigned from office at the beginning of this year. So that is the paper so far. Let's just take a quick look at any comments that might have come in, and then we will look at the war on immigration and talk about that in more detail. Let's see here. Scrolling up. There we go. Ellen Austin says, hi. Deborah Kerr says, did you know flights to Greenland originated from Denmark to Nuuk? No roads connect towns. Bring your kayak to get around the island or come by cruise ship. Pradnya asked, how many folks here are carrying their passport around like I am? Pradnya, that's a very good question. And I will say that I thought about that when I read that the mayor of St. Paul, who is Hmong, if I'm not mistaken, was told that she should carry her passport around, that people are being asked. Naturalized citizens are certainly a potential target. And probably I don't know whether you were born here or naturalized, but I am thinking about that as well. Jonathan says the war on immigration seems to include a war on the freedom of the press. Absolutely. We have Deborah says, heard Donald wants Greenland for his tech buddies who want to establish a tech incubator on Greenland. That is something. The one thing I heard about that, there's a lot of discussion around about minerals, but it's not a question about getting the minerals. Several countries have the raw materials, the heavy metals, but it's rather processing them that's the problem. And China has focused on processing them. So just getting Greenland is not going to solve those issues. And Deborah Kerr rightly notes President Obama deported more and in a humane way. Absolutely. President says incubator means data farms and AI and farming cryptocurrencies. Interesting. Diane says, so right to what I said about cruelty is the point, and the Democrats have to get their act together. Check out the Jim Acosta show with Senator Elizabeth Warren yesterday, who says we cannot wait until October and that we have to get voters to vote and to understand the consequences if they don't now. Absolutely. My mom says war on immigrants includes human rights and the attack on the Constitution. Trump has created Russia in our country. The image of America is affected badly. Absolutely. Ellen says his stance on immigration is so wrong. What has made this country great is diversity. We'll bring something different to the table depending on our backgrounds. We all bring something different. The U.S. has been a nation of immigrants since its beginning. I'm even more grateful I grew up in New York City, a totally diverse city. I could point out that T's mother was European born and he married 2 non-Americans who became American through him. So no diversity, and immigrants made this country great. T meaning Trump. I agree with you, Ellen, but I will say that America does have its history of being anti-immigrant, going back to the Alien and Sedition Acts of 1783 or so, and the Palmer raids in 1919. Going back to the Patriot Act after the attacks on 9/11. We have been a nation built on immigrants, but we've also been a nation that has attacked immigrants. No Irish need apply. The attacks on the Japanese after World War II, after Pearl Harbor, and internment camps. We have a very messy history, and it's not just against immigrants. It's against native-born Americans, indigenous peoples, First Nations who were here. We have a very, very a history we actually can't be proud of a lot of the time. Jonathan says the heat is holding this year, but in the past it hasn't, and I had to decamp to a local hotel. That's right. I remember that, Jonathan. President said he's taking us to 1937. And then we have a few Rocky Horror Picture fans. Deborah Kerr says Rocky Horror Picture is one play that keeps reinventing in many ways over the years. Interesting piece. President says, please pay attention to the special election in the Georgia 14 to fill Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. Absolutely. Kavri is watching from on Twitter. Thank you, Kavri. I'm so glad you're here on the East Coast. All right, so let's see what else is going on. We'll go to that special section on immigration first, and then we'll talk about civil rights, and then look at the rest of the paper. So here is the War on Immigration special report, and I want to move my papers out of the way so we can get full coverage of this. Again, for folks who are just joining us, this special report is available on our website. You can go to tinyurl.com/war on immigration. And I want to show this full spread. This is what when you open up that cover, that's what that looks like in terms of a picture. The text up here, Trump's war on immigration, the first year in the president's quest turned towns and cities into battlegrounds. And this is the thread. So let's take a look at inside. This is a photo essay with incredible photographer Todd Heisler. It's a year in the making, and it's written by Luis Farad Sodorni. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But let's take a close look at this. This first picture is in New Mexico. A man detained in Sunland Park by a Border Patrol agent who called the crackdown a breath of fresh air. That's what you see in the patrol car, in the back of the patrol car. And actually, the door's open. That's the agent speaking to him. This picture is from New York. The absence of migrants is evident in places like this factory in Cato, raided in September. So that looks like the waiting area where you'd hang jackets and stuff. The factory's inside there. This image, Georgia, preparing sneakers to send a pair of brothers deported to El Salvador after growing up in the United States. That's a representative of the loss that people are feeling. New York, federal agents began showing up at immigration courthouses to arrest migrants appearing for hearings. And that's an image of an agent in a full gator mask, which is the another thing that I can't believe with all this. I was all for masking during COVID, and that was a huge point, a touch point for folks where most conservatives and maybe some very far liberals on the other side were against masking and didn't want it imposed. But now these ICE and Border Patrol agents are masking all the time. You have people wearing masks, wearing uniforms, and snatching people off the street. In Texas, this is the smaller picture. Quiet descended on the streets of El Paso, since once teeming with recent border crossers sleeping in the streets. Mexico, keepsakes left behind at a shelter in Ciudad Juarez, that the strain on border cities has eased this past year. That's that picture. Again, it's a little harder to see. This is a nice, big dominant picture. Again, if you look at the full spread, you can see that over here. And this is Illinois. The Broadview ICE facility, federal officials said they detained over 3,000 people in Illinois and Indiana. That's Broadview. Up here on the top left, Florida, processing detainees in Miramar. A third of those in custody had no criminal record. No criminal record. Why were they detained? Visa issues? Maybe. That's also, I think that's the nickname is Alligator Alcatraz, if I'm not mistaken. Here's a picture from Mexico. The Border Patrol apprehended an average of 258 people in October, the least since the 70s. That's the border with Mexico. Here, this bottom picture on the bottom of the page on the left, at Lower Manhattan's 26 Federal Plaza, courtrooms became an out-of-view epicenter of deportations. And Maria Parekh leaves a chair empty for her husband, who was deported to Mexico. Again, taking a broad view, this is a nice piece here. When Mahmoud Khalil was detained in March over his opposition to the Gaza war, his wife, Dr. Noor Abdallah, used his prayer rug. Illinois, officials at the ICE facility in suburban Broadview, protesters were met with smoke bombs and tackled. Over here, Illinois, Chicagoans pushed back, gathering at the Broadview facility in clash with agents. Now, clearly, this piece was a long time in the making. The events in Minnesota were, could not have been fully predicted. Maybe you could assume that kind of thing would happen. Protesters like the one above foiled a second ICE raid on Canal Street in Lower Manhattan. You can just make out the protester there on the ground. New York, the Brooklyn street where a Guatemalan man was picked up by ICE agents looking for someone else. and Elian David Rendon at a detention facility in Newark, visiting his father, who was later deported. And that must be Elian over there. And that's the back page. Certainly encourage you to get the PDF, read through the story, read through the data, and certainly want to thank the New York Times for putting this much attention, these many resources into a story like this. Again, as a reminder, you can get the PDF of that special report from our website. Go to tinyurl.com, War on Immigration. tinyurl.com, War on Immigration. And that would you'd be able to get that from there. So let's switch gears a little bit now and see what folks had to say about that special session. Let's go back and forth a little bit, but I'm going to reach up into the comments and let's see. Deborah said, I read somewhere there's a man training crows to pick up those red hats, the MAGA hats. Can't wait for the new version of the birds red hats. Yes, I saw that article as well. Alex Counts, a former guest on the show. Hi, Sree and Neil. I'm in Dhaka, continuing to advocate for positive Indo-Bangladesh relations. Two natural allies, in my opinion. Thank you, Alex. Sujana replied to the comment that Pradnya had earlier about carrying her passport. I am carrying my passport card and my attitude. Don't know if either will help. Appreciate you mentioning the passport card, Pradnya. When I got my passport as well, there's both the blue book passport and the little card. It almost looks like a license. You can use that card to cross the land border, but you can't use it to get on an airplane, as I found out, much to my chagrin, a few years ago. But it does fit in your wallet and is easier to carry. I probably would have forgotten I had it if I needed it. So thank you for the reminder. President says, I am naturalized, and while being deported back to India would not be the worst thing. It's not something I want to experience. Absolutely, Pradnya. My point earlier, and obviously a lot of folks in our audience, in my family, my mom in particular, naturalized citizens, no issue around that in terms of the difference between naturalized or native born. My only concern is how this expands from, where immigration status becomes less and less an issue as a pretense for detaining someone and deporting them. Naturalized citizens tomorrow, native-born citizens the day after, based on their views or what they might say. In thinking about this show and in engaging with a few people, I know that talking about Trump, talking about immigration might be, now, I don't have any, might be an issue. I don't have any, kind of delusions of grandeur that this show necessarily is on the radar of anyone that matters in law enforcement. It's on the radar for people who matter in my life, in our read-along community, and that is enough for me. But is that something in terms of putting it out on socials, putting it out on our website, talking about the war and immigration? There are people who don't want to be associated with that conversation because they're concerned about the attention that they'll get, and that maybe it might draw them in to a problem. The thought did cross my mind about 2 days after I posted everything, but that's how things are. That's what I said in this morning's tweet, that we're not going to hold back. It's not, there isn't a question on this show. As you know, we have long since dropped any pretense of being objective or trying to approach this from a journalistic viewpoint. There's no both sides to this. There's no rational explanation for what is going on. So we need to use every platform we have, every opportunity we have, to call it out, to criticize it, to make sure that people are clear about what's going on. There's no sugarcoating this. There is no trying to cover it up. What is happening in terms of immigration, we're going to talk about civil rights in a moment, is just wrong. In many cases, it's illegal. I talked about America's history, and I think there is a debate that you can have about whether it's against the foundations, the values, and the morals of this country that we love so much. I'm not necessarily convinced about that, given our history, and that might be a more negative view than some folks take. But it certainly is against my morals, and it's against my values, and it's against everything I believe in. And this is a platform that we have. I am thankful for the community that Sree has built up over the years, that I've helped to build up and nurture. And we will use every opportunity we can to call this out. We have Naomi Service saying, shame on Bezos on his silence about a Washington Post journalist ransacked home. Democracy dies in darkness is now just an ancient slogan. Absolutely. If you missed the news, the FBI raided the home of a Washington Post reporter, seized their computers and phones, and the Washington Post editorial board was silent. Silent. Deafening silence. Linda Lawrence says, good morning from snowy Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Someone, Mr. Good Citizen, watching on YouTube Shorts. So they're raising this question: who don't know who's truly native to any continent? If you want to argue that, yes. Migration patterns going back tens of thousands of years. First Nations peoples crossed over the Bering Strait when it was a land bridge and settled in the Americas. No one is arguing that in terms of history. However, in the context of American history, when you talk about the European colonization of the Americas, when you talk about the Spanish conquistadors, when you talk about the land grabs and the policies in the 1800s in the U.S. by the U.S. government against people who were already living here, they were here for thousands of years. So that is ridiculous to say that they're not native. Just ridiculous. Feel free to think what you want, but that's what I think. This is the first Avenger watching on YouTube Shorts. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. George Orwell, 1984. This is MAGA. I've seen that quote several times over the last several days, and that is a great summation of what is going on. Ellen says, yes, Neil, and during World War II, we didn't allow foreigners to come in to escape Hitler, foreigners equaling Jews, particularly. But in general, we've had more immigration here than other countries. That's true. And I repeat, we all bring something different to the table. Agree. Absolutely agree. My mom knows that Trump's forefathers were immigrants. They were not born in America, like Native Americans, First Nations. Mary says it's complicated. Some Americans did not come voluntarily. Absolutely. And New York City is infamous for segregated neighborhoods and schools with violence accompanying efforts to change. Mary, thank you for noting that, and I would include that in my litany. Some Americans, most African Americans, blacks, trace their lineage to slavery. Not everybody came over as a slave, but obviously for generations. And that is another part of our history that we really can't ignore And we know that has had long-term effects on everything from healthcare to transportation to housing. Uh, Nicole Hannah-Jones' 1619 project was seminal to explaining that. But we also understand that this response, and we'll get to it in a moment, the backlash against the civil rights advances, the backlash against immigration, that's all a backlash to this understanding. These are the consequences of the progress we've made over the years. Our friend Walter Grayson is watching, and he shares a link to a YouTube interview he did that's on YouTube. Important insights on the invasion of Minnesota. Walter is in Minneapolis, ground zero. I was texting with him the day of the shooting. It is incredible what is going on there. And Walter, our hearts go out to you. I know how much you're doing in community there. Thank you for all the work that you do. Wayne says a small detail. Todd shot, this is going back to the war and immigration photo essay. Todd shot all of these photos on film for more vivid quality. All of them are full frame, no cropping, as the black edges are from the film scans. So Todd is framing all of these images in his camera. Interesting. Wayne, thank you for sharing that. And Walter says to look carefully at 1877 to 1896 in the U.S. for historical precedents. Dr. Tachi is watching from Fort Lauderdale. Thank you, Dr. Tachi. Walter says immigrants have an unusual opportunity to reject the assimilation path of the last century. Instead, look to indigenous and African diaspora traditions to build institutions that move closer to the ideals of the Declarations of Independence. He also says Americans with European heritage can also follow a new path, as seen among the people of Minnesota over the last week. Absolutely. Absolutely, Walter. It's not necessarily it's not the us versus them is not the old school black and white. The us versus them is people who are supporting the government and the law enforcement and ICE, etc., against us, the people, black, white, whatever milieu you come from. Those are the people that are standing up against what is going on. Alex says we need to realize that immigration makes America strong. Let's lead with that obvious truth. Absolutely. Ellen says you cannot travel outside the U.S. with passport card. You must use passport on plane unless you fly within U.S. You can use card to fly within the U.S. Absolutely. You can use the passport card to cross the land border, at least with Canada. And I have thought about that a few times. I actually had a text exchange with a cousin in Toronto on election night, making sure that there was room in his basement in case we needed to go there. Jonathan, sadly, we now have to assume that anything that is public will get such attention. Absolutely. Walter continues, amazing new insights on the better options we have here on Black and White and Red All Over website. And there's a post that Walter and Tim has shared talking about a new post, Dearly Beloved. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. There are a lot more comments that we have not gotten to that we will do our best. We may not get to, but we will do what we can. We may go a little bit past the hour if we have to. So let's see here. What I wanted to share with folks is this piece that Walter and his colleague Tim Fielder put together. So let's pull that on screen. Dearly Beloved is a reference to Prince and the beginning of his song. Let's pull that up and add that to the screen, and we'll make that a little bit bigger for folks to see. Let's whoops, sorry about that. No, I guess oh, it doesn't go farther bigger than that. I'm going to try that again just in case. Sorry about that, folks. Let's see what I can do here. One moment. Because I want to be able to show you the detail in this piece. And if I can't zoom in, that'll be challenging. Try this one more time. And maybe when I open in the window, it's not going to let me. We'll try this, see what happens, and then see if I can zoom in. There we go. That's what I want to. So this piece, Dearly Beloved, this image of Prince, of course, from Minneapolis. The text at the bottom from his song, Dearly Beloved, we have gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Electric word life, it means forever, and that's a mighty long time, but I'm here to tell you there's something else. The afterworld, a world of never-ending happiness. You can always see the sun day or night, so when you call up that shrink in Beverly Hills, you know the one, Doctor, everything will be all right. Instead of asking him how much of your time is left, ask him how much of your mind, baby, because in this life, things are much harder than in the afterworld. This life, you're on your own, and if the elevator tries to bring you down, go crazy. Tribute to Prince. But what they did with this was even better. They put it in the context of what has happened in Minnesota. So if you can see that on the screen really well, Dearly Beloved, George Floyd, breathing while black, always suspicious, killed May 25th, 2020. The world said no more after that. Even before that, Philando Castile, murdered July 6, 2016, moving while black, highly dangerous and volatile. The city remembers he was the best of us. And in fact, I was in Minneapolis a week or two after Philando Castile was murdered and went to that street corner that is in this image and paid homage to him with a few colleagues from United Way and then spoke at a conference the next day. And then the latest entry, Renee Good, murdered January 7th, 2026, standing united against violence. Solidarity emergency, stop all white Americans from uniting with immigrants and minorities. That's what the other side is saying. History notes this moment united Minnesota, the nation, and the free world against Nazi hatred in the 21st century. This great piece by Walter Grayson and Tim Fielder. You can get it from their website, graphichistory.com, and we will certainly share that with folks. It is 4 minutes before we were going to end the show. I will let you know now that we will go a little bit longer because we want to talk about the war on civil rights. So we will do that and then get back to some of your comments before we close. The war on civil rights. Now, I should note that the New York Times did refer to the immigration report as a war on immigration. I took the word war and added that to civil rights because it has been a war on civil rights for the last year. But this is mostly from an article that, from an interview rather, that Trump gave to the New York Times. I think it was last week, an excerpt from that where he said that civil rights led to white people being very badly treated. President Trump's comments were a blunt distillation of his administration's racial politics, which rest on the belief that white people have become the real victims of discrimination in America. We have a gift link on our website to that article. We'll add Mary Curtis's article there as well. We are curious, what are your thoughts on the war on civil rights, moving from immigration to civil rights? We want to hear from you. We want to see what your thoughts are on that first. Sorry, I had to chuckle because I saw a comment that I am going to put on the screen. What are you talking about? Enforcing federal law is fascist. You are demented. There are people who think this way. We don't want to necessarily live in a bubble Certainly, I know that not everyone agrees with what I might think or what others in our viewers might think. But yes, you need to enforce federal law. But we know from the very beginning that the Trump administration has been ignoring federal law, left, right, and center. So it's no question about whether or not they're enforcing federal law, and the way that you enforce it, certainly fascist, without question. That's not an issue. You can call me demented if you want. I don't need to resort to name calling. I can just resort to history and what I see on the streets. But thank you for watching. Appreciate that. What do we have here? So on the civil rights story, this is what I want to focus on for the moment. And again, we will be going a little bit past the hour today. And so I just putting that on screen for folks as we're approaching 9:30. Yes, we revamped the show. We rebooted it to make it an hour-long show. But sometimes we need to take the time to dig into stories like this. So let's take a look at this piece that was in the New York Times and Trump's comments from that interview. I'm just going to walk through it because there's so much to pull apart here and to dig into. I'll make it a little bit bigger for folks so it's easier to see. Where he said civil rights led to white people being very badly treated. There's nothing in this article. There's nothing in the work in what Trump has said on this issue from the beginning that has any connection to reality. It has no connection to history that we've seen. The experience of slavery, the experience of after the Civil War and Reconstruction, where slavery was just extended in a different name, sharecropping, the Jim Crow laws going up to the 1950s and 60s, the beatings that people took, the violence, the attack dogs and the police. White people were being very badly treated because of civil rights for the gains in the last 60 years or so. It's just beyond the pale to say that. But we should thank him for saying the quiet part out loud. As the Times put it, his comments were a blunt distillation of the administration's racial politics, which rest on the belief that white people have become the real victims of discrimination. And this is very much a consequence of looking at demographics. Over the next several years, the U.S. will become the majority white Caucasian population will become a minority when compared to black and brown folks. I don't know. I can only hope that the deportations can't impact those numbers, but there will come a time, and I think that's the fear that people are talking about. This is all a clapback to not just the gains over the last 60 years, but the gains and the movement we had after President Obama was elected. That's all this is. That's all this is. This is all the result from an interview that is speaking to the New York Times. It talks about how there was reverse discrimination, particularly citing not being able to get into colleges, which is, again, ridiculous. He harnessed, they say that in 2016, during his campaign for president, he harnessed the political backlash to the Black Lives Matter and other protests, saying there is a definite anti-white feeling in this country. And he joined his base in denouncing what he deemed to be woke policies. But it wasn't just a backlash to Black Lives Matter and protest. It was a backlash to the progress over the last 60 years. It's a much longer term process. He's claimed that eradicating policies that promote diversity would shepherd a merit-based society. We've never had a merit-based society. We've had a white-dominated society where whites could get mortgages and whites could get loans and get houses in certain neighborhoods. That's not a merit-based society. When they talk about going back, make America great again, going back to the 50s, that's the type of world they want to take us back to. They have a quote from the leader of the NAACP. There's no evidence that white men were discriminated against as a result of the Civil Rights Movement, the Civil Rights Act, and efforts to rectify the long history, the hundreds of years of history of this country denying access to people based on race in every measurable category. And within hours of taking office, Trump ordered the dismantling of the diversity, equity, and inclusion offices across the board that were responsible for addressing systemic discrimination against minorities and women. I want to switch to an article that the article that Mary C. Curtis wrote, because there's an important point in there that I want to make sure that we see and really spend some time with. She goes through the piece, goes through some of the work that Trump has done, but further down, I just want to find here some of it. Trump is old enough to have witnessed this history, the landmark progress that came only after bloody images. Oops, let me put that on the screen for you. My apologies. There we go. That's Mary C. Curtis's column. And Trump is old enough to have witnessed this history, the landmark progress that came only after bloody images of brave civil rights activists being beaten and killed made their way from TV screens to the world's consciousness, particularly Selma and Bloody Sunday. What he knows, however, is how to capitalize on the lingering resentments of those who always need an other to blame for life's disappointments. It beats self-reflection and taking responsibility every time. After all, even many of those who left the lynchings and cross-burnings to others sympathize with the suspicion that sharing the American dream at some point becomes encroachment and robs them of someone to look down on. I'm scrolling down because this is the key point for me. You might as well put up a sign that says no woman, minority, person with disability, veteran, member of the LGBT community, or other underrepresented American need apply. That is the truth. And the war on truth inevitably leads to museums with the Smithsonian. I worry about the Museum of Native American of African American History and Culture and the Native American Museum. What will happen to that? Whether or not they will be shuttered and all of the displays thrown out, frankly, because that's, you erase history and you erase memory, and that's what I think we're coming to. Let's take a look at what other comments that have come in. Let's see. There we go. Just catching up because there are a lot of comments to cover. So as I mentioned, we will be going a little bit past the hour. Thank you for sticking with us and staying with the show. Let's see. Trying to catch up to where we left off with the comments. Sorry for the silence. Okay, here. Walter said that. Okay, so Rahadian said, good morning from Long Island. Rahadian, thank you for joining us. For those who may have joined us late, of course, after we finish the show, you'll be able to watch the show from the beginning on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on our Digimentors website. So please encourage you to do that. Deborah says, great conversation. Neil, thank you. Slavery, America's first mortal sin. Covery shares that Villanova's Irish American history is full of struggles against discrimination. Irish Americans have kept that memory and those lessons alive for 250 years. Miriam notes she's watching on Facebook and YouTube. My mom notes that Jews were not accepted by Americans and were discriminated against. Many students were not getting admission to medical colleges, and that's why they started Albert Einstein Hospital in New York. Dr. Tachi says we're okay with going past the hour. Thank you, Dr. Tachi. Appreciate that. Let's see. Deborah Kerr had a question. How will all these recent immigration bans affect the World Cup and FIFA? Will it keep people away or send these sporting events to other countries? A friend attended the Pennsylvania farm show fair, said ICE was everywhere. Attendance was down. My understanding is that a lot of tickets are being canceled for FIFA, and that there is a restriction on new visas from 75 countries, which will certainly impact the World Cup. Whether they can move it at this point, I don't know, especially after giving Trump the first FIFA World Peace Prize. I say that ironically, but I think it's going to be a problem. I can't imagine people wanting to go to an event like that where they know that ICE will be there to detain people. Let's see. President says immigration and civil rights are inextricably linked. Absolutely. And Jonathan says you're approaching it wrong. It's an hour when you say the show is over. Let's stop the clocks. Doesn't matter what time it is. We're just going to talk for a bit. Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that. Let's see. Let's engage with this. R. Wilson, just know that Nancy Pelosi helped write the bill that established ICE, and now she wants Democrats to put their lives on the line. Not sure what she means about putting lives on the line, but sure. Politicians of all stripes helped write the bills that create the federal government, whether it's Department of Homeland Security after 9/11, ICE, what have you. It's not a question of creating the agencies, and I don't think that anyone necessarily is against the agency existing in and of itself. It's what you do with the agency. It's what you instruct the enforcement agents to do. The Department of Justice, for example, you're not even supposed to instruct them on what to do, but that's what Trump is doing anyway. So this is a spurious argument. R. Wilson 7744. Try again. Walter Grayson. When you're used to sitting in a chair at a table while everyone else sits on the floor, the creation of a larger table with seats for everyone might feel like very bad treatment. That perspective deserves deep reflection, not the destruction of the new table and chairs. Walter, thank you for saying that. It's not just a question of the table and chairs being destroyed. It's clearing the room, destroying the table and the house and the chairs, and building a fence around so no one can come back. These changes, some of the changes in policies, will take a generation to undo. It's not just about immigration policy. You can change the direction, the directives that ICE is given on day one of a new administration. But how do you undo the fear that was created? How do you undo the climate that was created by these activities? That is going to take much longer to change. More comments, and I'll keep reading comments as we go. Mary says, thank you for sharing my column. My parents could not have lived in my Charlotte, North Carolina home because of restrictive covenants in the deed. Absolutely. Trump family real estate firm had to settle in the 70s for discriminating against blacks. Not long ago. Absolutely, Mary. Absolutely. Deborah Kerr, Donald and his handlers simply spew out these comments hoping something sticks, like throwing spaghetti to a wall. Yes, he's speaking to his base, which is illiterate and afraid of color. Absolutely. I want to also share an image, if you didn't see it, of Kristi Noem speaking at a podium recently. I'll take this from a New York Times article in reference to what this administration is doing, what the dog whistle politics of old. Let's if you didn't see this image, where she was speaking at a press conference, and the podium said, "One of ours, all of yours." Nazi slogan, people. One of ours, all of yours. That's what this administration is supporting. That's the kind of rhetoric they are putting out. Let's see, where are we in terms of comments? One of the most engaging shows we've had in a while. Thank you to everyone who is contributing. This is a group effort, folks. This is a group effort. Pradnya, it's really awful how white people have been forced to hold the majority of wealth and political power in this country. What a burden to them. So difficult. And again, we should note, it's not all white people. It's not everybody, and there's no good and 100% good, 100% bad on either side of these equations. But in general, for Trump and others to say that white people have been treated badly, it's just no. Deborah says, as a final comment, it's truly sad in this year to celebrate America's 250 years of independence. We have a president seeking to be an imperialist king and does not recognize our Constitution that our forefathers came by boat, some voluntarily, some involuntarily. Thank you, Deborah. Smithsonian also has museums of Asian and African art that could be in danger. True. Ken says, cogent points, Mary, sad traditions of plainsmanship. Jonathan says that at the smaller end of the issue, I'm worried about the flamenco festival next month. All sorts of events are in jeopardy, Jonathan. Tim says, such an honor to do work featured on the New York Times read-along, because to take illustration from an entertainment focus to observing and hopefully expanding public policy is doing the work. Much appreciated. Absolutely, Tim, absolutely. Pradnya says, Neil is on fire this morning. Thank you, Pradnya. Appreciate that. We have Donald William Cheng saying, hello, Happy New Year. Haven't talked in a while, but how are you doing? Donald, thank you for watching. Again, this is Sree's Sunday New York Times read-along. Sree has hosted the show for 10 years. I am the executive producer and occasional guest host. So I am proud to sit in. Walter says the Museum of American Indian History has already been severely censored. It has. I remember seeing that. Naomi writes about Long Island's racism. When looking for a home here, one realtor tried to dissuade us from buying in a particular neighborhood because that's not where white people live. We purposely looked for an integrated neighborhood so our kids would grow up with diversity. Also was a hotbed of Nazis. Naomi, I'd be curious to know when you were looking at that neighborhood. What years was that conversation? And Deborah says our development in Queens, Fresh Meadows, rented to East Asians instead of blacks for years and claimed to not be prejudiced against non-whites. Absolutely. And Kaveri says, great show, Neil. Thank you, Kaveri. Appreciate all of the comments. Again, I want to make sure that folks know a couple of housekeeping. This show, as you can see from the graphics on the screen, we're celebrating 10 years of the show, but it's produced in partnership with Scroll .in, one of India's most important independent websites. We're so thankful to be able to simulcast the show on their channels as well. So thank you to Scroll. And again, we are live almost every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and our Digimentors website. And we hope that you will enjoy the show. Watch it on repeat. If you came late, again, you can watch the show at the from the very beginning on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and our Digimentors website. You can find our archives at digimentors.group, NYTReadalong. And if you want to be added to our mailing list, please email me, neil@digimentors.group, neil@digimentors.group. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I am proud of the work that we do. I'm proud that we have an opportunity to share these thoughts with you. And when necessary, we will share these types of editorial comments, particularly when we have the space and the time and the content that supports it. Every week, there's something else to talk about. This week in particular was fairly strong. So thank you for being here this weekend, this Sunday. Naomi says that that story about Long Island was from 1983. They landed in Greenlawn, where my son was once asked by a substitute bus driver, "Are you sure you're on the right bus?" Because he's one of few white kids. Thank you, Naomi, for that perspective. Again, you can get the PDF of the War on Immigration from our website. Go to tinyurl.com/war on immigration to get the PDF to see what the layout looks like. You can also get a gift link to the article about Trump's comments on civil rights, where he says that white people were very badly treated. You can get that gift link by going to tinyurl.com, War on Civil Rights. On a separate note, I want to make sure folks know about the other show that I produce, Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. Last Thursday, we had a community check-in. It's been a rough start to the year, 2026. And one of the things that came out from that show, the call to action, was that we should check in on our friends and people we haven't talked to in a while, and make sure they're okay. So I did that myself. There's several people I reached out to that I'm hoping to get together with in person. Encourage you to do that as well. Next Thursday, we have another show coming up, episode 42. Kirby Hansen-McNulty will be joining us. And we'll be talking about how to manage New Year expectations through self-kindness, which is something that we could all use a little bit more of. So please make plans to join us, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific on Thursday for episode 42 of Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. We'll close with a last few comments. Jonathan says, important show. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Apollo joined us late, but said hello from Philadelphia. And Apollo, as you know, you can watch the show from the beginning, right as soon as we finish. And certainly encourage you to do that. Meaning I, shared some very strong opinions on this show on immigration and civil rights and the current administration. I think it's worth watching. And we'll close with Naomi saying, deep dive today. Great to share with like-minded folks. Thanks, Neil. Thank you, everyone. Ken Fisher says, great show. You're not just second fiddle to Sree in this orchestra. You have a brave heart and great journalistic chops. Ken, that is incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for watching, for commenting, for the affirmation. It's something that I've always known more than once, that I have gone out on a limb with the New York Times read along, and I haven't been disappointed. I know that we have a great community here, and I can't thank you enough for all of your support. And even if you may disagree, we can have a discussion about topics. That's what we're allowed to do in this America on this show. And if nothing else, if you appreciate the passion, if you appreciate the energy, that's even better. I'm happy to disagree with people, happy to have a discussion with people. You're allowed your own opinions. You're not allowed your own facts. That is the best way to close this show. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next week.